Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. Here we are again talking about fighting games. I know, crazy, right? And specifically, we're going to be talking about fighting game characters today. You see, one of the beautiful things about fighting games really is that so many fighting games just have so much legacy behind them. Just about every major franchise can find its roots somewhere in the 90s. And they've persisted since then, so lots of franchises have been around for like 20 to 30 years. Very long time. And naturally, with new games in the franchises come all sorts of new characters. Lots of the existing franchises have all sorts of staples. Characters that have been around since the start and will be around until like the sun burns out. But of course, when you have new games, sometimes you add new characters. You gotta keep things fresh, right? And sometimes when you're lucky, those new characters are popular. They're instantly beloved. People back them kind of just out of the gate. We're good. We like the character. And sometimes when you're really lucky, you get a character that just hits so hard, they basically become just part of the base roster. They're never going to miss a game ever again. And once in a rare blue moon, you create something truly special and truly legendary, never to be seen ever again. But then there's the characters that, don't exactly stand the test of time. Nobody's going to be arguing for their inclusion in the next game. They just don't have much character. They don't have much just personality. They don't have much aura for whatever reason, right? These are the duds. Now, lots of older games certainly have lots of duds. Because, well, we just didn't know the rules. We didn't know what worked, right? There's all sorts of freaks and all sorts of weird characters. You just threw whatever you had against the wall and you saw what stuck, basically. Maybe an experimental character, it didn't work out. Okay, they're gone the next game. We try somebody new. Maybe you just struck it lucky and you just invented Rock Howard. It's all kind of a big crapshoot, honestly. So we're not going to talk about the duds of ages past because it was an experimental time. Nobody knew anything really. We were just figuring stuff out. We're going to talk about the duds of the modern day. The post Street Fighter 4 era where we did have a lot of these things figured out. And true flops of a new character for a variety of reasons get a lot just harder to understand why this happened and a lot less excusable. So that said, let's dig into it. So let's start with the King of Fighters, a franchise with just an amazing amount of great all-timer characters. And then there's Shun'Ei, the hero of the King of Fighters 14 and 15. And that's a really big part of the problem right there, is that he is nominally the face of these two games. And yet, well, buddy, the Orochi saga was full of such luminaries like Kyo Kusanagi, Iori Yagami, Rugal. Ness Saga had K-Dash, Maxima, Kula Diamond. All these characters just exude cool. The Ash Crimson Saga had, well, Ash Crimson. Ash was actually heavily controversial at the time, mostly due to the appearance and look, but these days, you would definitely argue Ash was just simply ahead of the curve. So KOF has so many great protagonists, antagonists, like main characters over the years. Nobody's arguing it. But then we get the Shun'Ei, and Shun'Ei just simply does not live up to the rest of them. And actually, before we get into talking about Shun'Ei, I'm not throwing everyone with him under the bus. I think Meitenkun is actually one of the best design characters of the last few decades. He's a sleepy boy who fights with sleepy kung fu. That is actually genius. Not the least of which is he's a charge character, and the more you charge, the better the move gets. So the more you sit down and wait with charging, the more your charge moves get better. Like, this character is an actual joy. I love Meitenkun. I want him to appear in future King of Fighters games. This guy rules. So the thing with Shun'Ei, there's a lot of things with Shun'Ei. So out of the gate, just his appearance, it is a clash, a mess of designs. I've been told this look was something of the style at the time in China. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it was, well, maybe not China's best trend. So the thing is, and this is kind of the really unfortunate part of it, mechanically, he's actually quite interesting. He is a lot of what is not normally in KOF. Like, he plays like he comes from a different game. Like, he has all sorts of like air mobility options that do not normally exist in KOF. He's a very different kind of character for sure. Like in KOF 15 specifically, they even like double down on his air mobility. So he can just do all sorts of wild stuff. He's like an anime character in KOF, basically. He can just do stuff the other characters cannot do at all. He's actually really crazy. So there's no problems gameplay-wise, and a lot of characters on the list. That's the thing, is there's no problem gameplay-wise. It's character-wise. Like, what is Shun'Ei's personality? I don't know. I got so many hours in these games, I couldn't tell you. I love King of Fighters Lord of Death. I couldn't tell you anything about his personality. He's a Chinese boy with headphones on his head, and he has two big colored hands. This is from Verse, who was the guy who brought everyone back to life in KOF 14. And that's also not really explained to any reasonable degree in the games. It's just more of a, okay, we have a lot of dead characters we need back. It's annoying. So instead of just thinking about it too hard, this guy just brought everyone back. We're good. Like, a lot of stuff is striking, you know, okay, all sorts of reds and blues, you know, got those esports colors rocking, right? It's just, none of it matters. None of it's explained to any, like, sufficient degree, especially in KOF of all franchises, where these games go way out of the way compared to normal fighting games to explain the characters, to show off the story, to show off the plot. This game, 14 and 15, for Shun'Ei, not much. Shun'Ei is just very disappointing in a franchise with such strong protagonists, with such strong story, lore, and character, to go from all that to this. Like, KOF 15 is a hell of a game, great game. Everyone loves KOF 15, so it really stood the test of time in a lot of ways. It's just the guy who's on the box, Shun'Ei, is not the reason why people like these games. Shun'Ei, come King of Fighters 16, which will eventually happen for sure, I don't think he's going to be the main character anymore. We're going to find somebody else, or we're going to go back to like K-Dash or Kyo. Now, if we're making a video like this, there's no way we can't talk about Necalli. Necalli is maybe one of the greatest failure to launches ever. Necalli was kind of the herald of Street Fighter V. He was supposed to be the big deal. Like, hell, he is the V. He is the V in Street Fighter V. The big V on the logo, V trigger, V everything. He's marked in V's. This is literally the gimmick. He is the guy. And what is his legacy? He's basically the Poochie of Street Fighter. Like, mechanically, there's absolutely nothing wrong with him. Like, you know, he had all right buttons. Ground pound was really strong. He had a V trigger so good they eventually had to nerf it. You know, had command grabs. Had interesting, you know, charge, like, and his V trigger also removed the charge requirement. He had lots of things happening, but as a character, and that's kind of the big thing, as a character, what character? What character? Like, even in the Street Fighter V story mode, he shows up and then is jobbed out. He's jobbed out. Ryu throws him in the dumpster, literally never to be seen or heard from ever again. Like, when Street Fighter V entered Arcade Edition, they added, you know, all sorts of, like, single-player content that wasn't there before. They added things like Arcade Mode, and they also added new characters, one of which was G. And G was not there at launch, and G literally supplanted Necalli as the boss of Street Fighter V. Like, he got boss-cucked in his own game, if you will. Like, there's no reference to Necalli past the initial part of the launch of Street Fighter V. Going into Street Fighter 6, there's not one piece of anything referencing him at all. He is just dead and gone, and is likely just relegated to the dustbin of history with characters like Remy. It's a strong testament to, you can have a cool character, like aesthetically at least, you know, with a very workable moveset, and then the legacy you leave behind is exactly nothing, because characters need character. Now, moving on to the realms of Mortal Kombat. This is one of those deals where, as a content creator, I gotta be objective. I love Kollector. This is actually my main character in MK11. Didn't start that way, but it got that way because I love this dumb little goblin. But it is very, very clear that other people did not like him as much as me. This is the game that introduced Garrus. We talked about earlier in the video how certain characters, like once they appear, it's like they should have been there all along. Garrus is a character that's going to be in every Mortal Kombat from now on. Garrus was an instant hit, an instant critical success. Kollector, well, I love my little treasure goblin, but I don't know if he's ever going to show up ever again. Let's put it that way. In a franchise with characters famous for having multiple sets of arms, you know, he had the most. He has 6 arms. He's not some Shokan with like 4, like a loser. He's got 6 arms. The normal arms are for, you know, basic punches. The other set of arms are for big punches. And the last set are there to hold his little treasure goblin bag. You know, always keep it safe. And I would even argue, compared to some of the other characters we talked about, like he does have a personality. It's a base personality, you know, it's a very dime a dozen. He's just really greedy, but you know, that's the character, right? But other than myself and, you know, a select few chosen others, the elite that could handle him, Kollector just was a complete flop. He came and he went. In a franchise with, like, Mortal Kombat has like one of the strongest rosters of like all of gaming, let alone fighting games, right? Such a strong franchise with so many great characters. Kollector obviously will not be joining the pantheons of your Sub-Zeros and your Scorpions. I think the ideas fundamentally sound like, you know, he had a really cool gameplay loop, because the whole idea is he's just literally like a bag of tricks. He has all sorts of tools, all sorts of gimmicks, all sorts of like everything you can think of as being hidden in his little backpack, he has it, right? So maybe come the next game, we get like a sexy lady Kollector. I don't know. That's generally how it's done, right? Like if the concept doesn't work, you try again with a sexy lady version of the character. I don't know. But despite how much I love him, I gotta be objective. Kollector was a complete dud. Now, in fighting games, there's almost nothing sadder than when you get a new sexy lady introduced into your game and it fails to hit. So in this section, the dud, no, it's not Lucky Chloe. Lucky Chloe, God bless her, she has her challenges, right? Lucky Chloe is a character at least. Katarina is nothing. She is a by the books, like just sexy lady design, you know, all the things, all the aspects you would want, I guess, are covered. And the thing is, there's actually a lot of friendliness to her in her character design besides just the appearance. Like a lot of her moveset was designed very much to be very easy. You could just hit 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, and like stuff would just work. And trust me, especially in the very early days, it worked very well. I had a friend before Tekken 7 launched, got very far in the Tekken 7 pre-launch tournament at Canada Cup, just spamming 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, and 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Like she was designed to be popular. And you know, this is obviously the Tekken 8 days now. And where's the people crying for Katarina to come back? Nobody. I still see people fighting for Bruce. I see a lot of people fighting for Miguel to show up and take his rightful vengeance on Jin again, right? These are the characters that, you know, they miss games and people still want to see them again. You know, factory designed, meeting board room designed sexy lady just didn't hit. Like, you know, Katarina's been pretty all right at various aspects of Tekken 7's life, you know, competitively as well. And nothing about this character stood the test of time. You can't just be a sexy lady. It certainly helps. But if that's all you are and that's your only legacy, then just like the myriad of other characters we've talked about, you are a dud, just the same as all the rest. Katarina will never show up ever again. Tekken's not hurting for sexy ladies anyways. And Anna will definitely reappear in Tekken 8. And she'll just be relegated to the dustbin of history. Now, on that note, let's keep it back on 3D Fighters here. Because we're going to talk Dead or Alive. Dead or Alive, as a franchise, you know, ups and downs. But generally, one of the big things about it's really always been good is the characters. We have all sorts of cool wrestlers. We got super ninjas. We got all points in between. The characters are pretty damn cool. But then, meet the inspiration for this video. Meet Diego, a dime store Miguel from Tekken. I randomly just remembered Diego the other day, and that's literally the entire inspiration for this video. Because when you think dud of a character, Diego has to be number one, if you could even remember him to begin with, because he is so forgettable. Now, I know, dead or alive, the men other than Hayabusa are not as popular as the ladies overall, but you got people like Bayman, Bass, Zack, they're cool guys. What is even Diego? Diego, the idea is, oh, I'm a tough Street Fighter guy. I'm really rough and tough rumbler brawler, but like, there's just an absolute lack of charisma, an absolute lack of character, a lack of everything, really. Like, this guy reeks of, like, SmackDown versus Raw create a wrestler. Like, you would expect to see him just as much there as, like, a proper fighting game against a real roster. This guy is a nobody's nobody. Like, the concept of a actual Street Fighter, like a brawler, right? Like, we have Miguel in Tekken. Miguel does it very well, right? And he effortlessly carries himself. He looks cool just by standing around. And of course, the way he fights is really good and brutal. And like, Diego has stuff like that. Oh, big shoulder tackles, big brawler kicks, all that kind of stuff. But just in an absolute void of charisma. Like, you're told this guy is tough, right? And they try to in the cinematic story mode as well, like give him any kind of aura or like presence. But, like, he just lacks everything. Dead or Alive 6, in a lot of ways, well, it was the death knell of the franchise, unfortunately. There was a lot of bad ideas, bad decisions, but, like, a lot of that's encapsulated in this character. Like, this is one of the characters you were trying to sell the game on, new character, right? We also had characters that were new, like Nico, but Nico makes sense. She's, like, cutesy scientist lady, and she's actually just perfectly fits within the context of DOA. There's nothing objectionable about her. She works in this game. I don't think she's the strongest character, like character-wise or even design-wise. I never was a fan. But you look at him like, okay, yeah. She looks like a Dead or Alive character. Sort of makes sense. Sure. Compared to Diego, who should be like studied for like somebody who just completely does not match the vibe of the franchise. It's not even like the rough and tumble moveset matters. Like, that could fit just fine. Like Mila was a bit of a brawler too, right? But for him, like, nothing about this guy screams DOA. Diego would be just in place of like a bunch of those like, late 90s PS1 Me Too 3D fighters, right? That's where he belongs, not in an actual storied franchise. So when it comes to like the dud of duds, Diego is just one of the biggest swings and a miss ever in all of video games. And hey, there you have it. So, having characters that aren't strong characters isn't a death knell of a game or nothing. I love Virtua Fighter, but I'll be the first to admit the VF characters aren't the strongest among all the fighting game pantheons out there. But then, as we've talked about in the video, you can have those characters that show up and you're just like, why are you even here? Something obviously went wrong in the design process. When you get things right, then you have the all-timer characters. Hey, they carry themselves. They don't even need to be in the games to have a presence. Like, hey, Morgan. Morgan's last game was, it was before a lot of you watching this were alive. But you definitely know who she is. That's the power of a strong character. And the duds, well, they usually make just a good test case for what not to attempt. It's not to say they don't have their fans. As we went over in the video, I'm a big fan of Kollector myself. But you just got to take it for what it is. Sometimes characters show up and they're a swing and a miss. So this video, I guess, is an ode to the duds. Now, that said, I know there's some characters you guys think are definitely duds as well. So post those in the comments below. But other than all that, we are at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some fighting games.
Love me.